Happy Thanksgiving and welcome to the Main Contain Action Podcast. This episode is presented, as always, by G Fuel, the official drink of esports. G Fuel, it's what's for dinner. Use code MCA at checkout on gfuel.com for a discount on your next order. I'm Trevor May, aka I'm Trevor May, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Action Jackson, aka XJ. What up, Paul?
Hey, not known as XJ, not a thing.
You are XJ. That is you, and you are that forever.
Nope, that's just on your game that you play. That'll be the
you
show.
were the first nickname XJ, and then we gave Sacriel one. He is now the English Muffin. So those are the two we have.
These are awful names. I'm also imagining Happy G Fuel for dinner. Nice tagline. I think G Fuel's gonna love that one.
I did what you did. I made up the slogan, and that.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I don't. Mine are off the top of my head. Trevor, shut up.
That's what it gave me.
Oh my god.
Tired of dirt? G Fuel. Like, yeah, it gives you like stuff like that. Like, it's like, I'm like, you can't just take taglines from other companies and put G Fuel
Tired
in
of
it.
Dirt?
Yeah, literally, that was one of them. That was one of them.
Because that's the alternative.
But seriously, though, guys, seriously, G Fuel, dude. So, yes, sometimes you get a tub and it's called something like, I don't know, Hype Juice. And you're like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, hype sauce.
And you have to, does anyone else have to go like look very closely at the tub and be like, all right, what fruits are in the
label?
In the label, like in the drawing, so I know what this is going to taste like. Like, you have to look at the fine print sometimes, but it's always good. So,
yes.
I mean, at this point, I don't even know why I try. Maybe just so I can, you don't want to like get hit with chocolate when you're expecting strawberry, though. You know what I mean?
Don't you? I mean, is that really? There are worse things.
Like, you don't want to get hit with butter flavored when you're looking for strawberry.
Don't think they offer a butter flavor. Yeah, don't think we have to worry about that.
We're going straight Harry Potter soon.
Oh my god, boogers
flavored. Anyway, how are you doing? What have you been up to, Paul? We haven't spoken in 3 whole days, man.
3 whole days. I'm good, man. Battlefield came out, and I've been playing that a lot. It's been really good.
Really? Is it
good.
fun?
Yeah.
Because every time I'm like, yo, I can't wait to play, and then I'll go watch someone stream it, and they're like, man, this is buggy as hell. I'm like,
yeah, no, it's buggy as shit, but it's not like unfun. The bugginess kind of almost adds to the fun. I've only had like 1 or 2 experiences where it affected me dying when I shouldn't have. But usually you get like blasted with a tank, and you just get sent into the upside down, and then you're
not hurt.
Map. And then
spoken like a true Tarkov player, Paul. Yeah, the bugs. It's like part of the game. It's endearing.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's fun. I like it a lot.
Of it. Yeah. I don't know. All these games keep coming out, and I'm just like with no fanfare. Like the Halo, we're talking about Halo's now on beta and just available. I'm just like,
it's a lot to keep up with. Yeah, no, we're in game season. This is game season.
It's game season. I mean, I guess when we start getting into the Thanksgiving, Christmas time, that's when. Parents are buying their kids stuff. That makes sense.
That's right.
Makes sense.
And I can't wait for them to open it on Christmas Day and then just have a whole new group of people to slaughter. Really exciting. Love that.
And in my case, a whole new people to kill me. Well, that's enough of us because we heard all about us last week. Anyways, we have a guest. And we have an amazing guest. Today's guest is a multimedia personality. Host of Life, guys, Life. Life is not a game podcast. A producer, a consultant, part owner of Xset Gaming. Xset, yes. I'll ask you when she gets here. She's also worked with brands such as Puma, Turtle Beach, Bacardi, Nike, Bleach Report, AT&T, GM, Nike, Columbia Records, the MLS, Forbes, Gen G, and so much more that it literally takes up an entire run sheet. Which I love that I just listed 40, and then I'm like, and there's too many. Like after I list 40. Erin A Simon is here.
Woo! Whoa. Guys, I honestly could just listen to you two just talk all day. I don't think I have lice, but if I did, probably a lice company would be on that list as well.
Host of lice.
Lice be gone. Just comb it out. That's their tagline. I'm just got the taglines today. That's what I got. Got it for
Outstanding, Trevor. A hell of an intro.
God. Aaron, what's up? What are you up to? How are you doing? How's life?
Oh my gosh. What am I up to? I'm just, right now I'm in a transitional moving phase, about to
Ooh.
be. Yeah, I'm about to be on that LA life. I don't know how much I feel
Oh
about that,
no,
but
another one.
yeah,
Oh
only for a
no.
bit, only for a bit. I'm New York based, but in that process, as well as just like working in general, and like you guys said, it's a holiday season, it's game time, it's new consoles and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna enjoy playing and just relax a little bit.
Okay. All right. Are you?
What's that
So it's
like?
What'd you say, Trev?
What's that like? What's this like? Just play a game. You know what I mean?
I don't
Back
know.
up to
I
play
I
it.
swear, I feel like you guys play video games more than I do. So you guys tell
Maybe.
me how that is.
What
It's
is it?
funny. I think
Episode 79, and Trevor complained about being a baseball player again. Is that a record?
Whoa!
Is
You
that-
reached. Okay, I didn't
is
mention
that-
baseball at all. Maybe I've gotten more subtle about my complaints, but that is kind of what I'm.
That's kind of what you're talking about. Yeah,
what I'm
exactly.
doing. Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely.
I was
Are you moving to? You said LA for like a time period. Did you ever see yourself actually settling there? Because it feels like everyone's like, no, I'm never going to do it. And they're like, I'm moving next month because reasons.
Yeah, you know what? I've always been a Northeast kind of person. I mean, I was raised in New Jersey. My family's from New York, so I've always
Awesome.
been around New York City. Been living in New York since like 2014. So
Oh wow.
I honestly didn't see myself going anywhere else. Now, even though I'm heading over there, it's not, at least right now, it's not a long-term thing.
Okay.
But I do want to I do want to enjoy the bi-coastal life though. I don't want to be just stuck in one place.
It's fair. That's fair. Okay.
Weather is
You-
nicer,
Yeah,
and I heard it's getting pretty cold up there right now.
it's a little cold. I have my heater on. It's not a huge deal though. I mean, New York City's always like 5 to 10 degrees warmer than upstate. So I feel like it's not, I don't know how it is up there. It's like 35 right now in Syracuse. I live in upstate New York. So I'm a little bit more north. Everyone thinks I live in New York City though. So I just let them think that. That's fine.
Two different worlds.
Two completely different worlds.
Two different worlds.
Yeah. Maybe you can tell me this. I have a wedding this weekend in Garrison, New York. Is that close to New York City? Is that like
Garrison, New York?
Yeah. Have
I
you
don't
heard
know
of
if
this?
I've ever heard of it.
Okay, that doesn't bode well.
It's probably rural
Yeah.
because that's where weddings are.
Yeah, I got to drive there, and I should probably Google how to get
where
there.
that is.
Sorry, that's unrelated, completely unrelated. Well, I want to know, Erin. Sorry, complete left turn here.
It's all right.
So you are, I kind of know of you, treasury on the side of.
Tertiary.
Thank you. I can never say that word. Through Crown and Crown Channel. That work that you're doing with them, is that because I also work with Crown Channel, is that recent? Have you just started working with them, or are you like kind of ground floor with them? How did you get involved with Crown?
So I got involved with Crown through just some previous people I've worked with. That's the one
Okay.
thing about this space is like it's so small, especially when it comes to production work, that if
Yeah.
someone works in one space, they end up working in another, and they end up working in another. And
Okay.
then my agents brought it up, and they were like, "Oh, you're interested in doing this? It's a little bit outside of gaming. It has a little bit of sports, which is, a lot of people don't know. I actually started in traditional sports media."
Oh,
And
cool.
so I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is kind of bringing me back to my roots a little bit. So
Yeah.
it was something I tried, but yeah, it was very just kind of like previous people I worked with and word of mouth, to be honest,
Yeah.
how I got involved.
That's really what it seems like in the industry for hosting and as well as just other things. It's like kind of like who you know, which leads to the next person you know, which leads to the next person you know, and the next person, and just kind of like goes from there. So when you started, how did you start? How did you get in emceeing? What was your first like ground level ever hosting job? And did you feel terrified?
No, I didn't feel
didn't
terrified.
feel terrified? Wow.
No, I didn't. So
What's that like?
I don't know. I've just been like, so I didn't really feel terrified because I've worked in pretty much almost every sector of media in some shape or form.
Okay.
And at that time, I was already doing a like podcast work, especially in front of a camera already with some friends, and was doing panels in front of a bunch of people. So for me, it felt normal. And I was already starting to do on-camera work to begin with. So I actually started prior to that. I started as a digital and print journalist. Then eventually I did social media and was also a producer for TV.
Wow.
And so I touched all these different areas and spaces. And I feel like because I knew how things work behind the scenes a whole lot, it made me a lot more comfortable as a host because it was easier for me to communicate with the director or whoever I was working with, or even the person who was working the teleprompter. Now, I wasn't the best because I still had to work on specific skill sets that you need for hosting and broadcasting, but I wasn't nervous at all. My first hosting gig was actually with the NBA. It was with their esports league that they just made at the time. And they had a show, and my friend hit me up and was like, hey, they're looking for a host. They're also looking for a woman. Would you like to do it? And I'm like, sure, why not? You know, it's kind of interesting. I didn't plan to be a broadcaster in this space. It just, I got asked to help out with something, and I said, sure. And then it kind of was a trickling effect from there.
Dang. That is dream. That is very cool. I mean, not the NBA. That's terrifying. I'd absolutely lose my mind. But that's okay. I'm kind of sorry. I'm like Trevor's.
No, you're good, dude. I got stuff loaded though. It's fine.
But I'm just as a host, kind of just breaking into it myself, doing hosting on the Crown Channel and kind of getting that going. Okay, I have many questions. One is, how do you develop your skill set, or how do you find out what those skills are that you need to be a successful host? Is there a master class? Is there a community college I should go to? Like, what do you do?
I mean, the good thing is that you could study actually some of the best hosts. I always encourage people that, like, if they're really interested in broadcasting and hosting, you should study a little bit of the hosts in your space, but you should actually be studying hosts in other spaces. And so I actually, like I said, I was not trained in broadcasting. I actually was trained in just traditional journalism. And then it wasn't until I started hosting a little bit later on that I had a casting director for over 20 years. She was like, hey, let me help you a little bit. So I had a little bit of development, but when I started, I didn't have any. And I think that there's two things. There's the technical side and there's the intangibles. The intangibles are like the only thing that you really know. And over time, as you're hosting and you're working, like, people will start telling you what your intangibles are that adds value to your hosting. So like for me, I had people tell me, hey, you're relatable, you are very comfortable, people are comfortable around you. And so I was like, okay, that's a skill set that I naturally have that I can bring to the table when it comes to broadcasting. Then from that's like the other side, when it comes to technical, it's like you have the teleprompter reading, which you can just get a free app and learn how to read from a teleprompter. Yeah. There's also, some of the things also do require you to like learn as you do. So when it comes to hosting, you're basically the one steering the ship. So you have to like learn how to throw to ads and sponsorships, learn what a run of show looks like, how to go through it, how to research, how to prepare for it. And over time, you gain those skills. I mean, broadcasting is honestly one of those skills that like you have to do it to get better at it. You can't just expect to go and do it. It's the same thing as like, with Trevor. You can't just go on the baseball field and expect to be good at it. Like you have to put in the work in order to become really, really good. And so
sure you can. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of things that have technical or entertainment value to it. But I think a lot of the technical stuff people can learn. I think that the hardest thing that people struggle with learning is figuring out what makes them great and then what makes them different from everyone else. And you could ask people that, and a good amount of them won't be able to really answer it because those are intangibles that aren't just so obvious and just jump out right at you right away.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, dang. Okay. Intangibles. I feel like I've
you have your notepad out, or do you have your notepad? Are you writing?
This is super helpful.
This is being recorded. You can listen to it later. Just say it.
Okay, I'll reference it later. Whatever. It's helpful because I feel like I see myself going down that path, or at least dabbling more in it, and it's good to know how to develop those skills because you just kind of like get offered like, hey, you want to host this thing too, and it's like, why do people keep thinking I can host? Because I feel like I'm not that great at it, and like I don't know how to get better necessarily. But they're like, no, here's like, a couple of your intangibles. Like you can do this. And so anyway, it's just helpful to know because I feel like there's a lot of really good hosts in the industry, obviously through G4. And I just did a show on the Crown with Gina. I mean, darling. And we've had Golden Boy on there before, just awesome hosts. So it's kind of cool to see how they all got started. And how they get better as they go. So that's super interesting to me. Sorry, Trevor. I'm interested.
Hey, you know what? That's what this podcast is for, Paul. You're forgiven. But I would love to sneak a question in. That'd be pretty cool. You know, and you mentioned earlier. You mentioned earlier about being trained as a journalist, and I believe that I've seen some videos like from you way back in college, like interviewing some of the basketball players. You went to University of Kentucky?
Yes, I played soccer there. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So, and were you a journalism major, or was it like sports management?
Journalism major.
Okay.
Prior to that, it was communications and I think psychology at Rutgers. And then I transferred to the UK. And then that's when I went fully immersed into the journalism world with a business management minor.
Okay. Cool. So I would love to see, and you said that you were kind of asked to do a 2K, event, NBA 2K. And was that like was the video game kind of attached side of things? Was that kind of something you hadn't thought about until that point? Or was it something or were video games like something you were already kind of interested in and you were seeing how that was growing? Like, or did it just kind of, you're like, oh, I didn't even think about this as an opportunity. And then you kind of just continued kind of in the video game adjacent or attached side of things from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. I honestly never thought of it as a career path because they don't teach you that. And I think that it wasn't until after like I would say years after college that it became a lot more stable of a career. Like I have friends who are like OGs in the gaming media space. And I would say over time, it's like a lot more companies are now starting to like recognize it as a viable career opportunity in all different shapes and forms. And so I think that for me, I've always been a gamer. I love video games. I've been playing video games since Sega Genesis. And for me, I always felt it was just like, I wouldn't say a hobby, but it was more of a passion. It was something that I did in adjacent to my media career. Trevor, when you're athlete, you play at a high level, you don't have a whole lot of time to do anything else except playing your sport. And also you have time to play video games because, you're traveling a lot. And so it was something that like I came to a point in 2018 where I was working for another company. It fell apart. To be honest, I didn't like the CEO who was running it. And I felt like, hey, I'm giving so much of myself to companies, but they don't care about me. So why am I continuing this typical 9 to 5 for myself when I can pursue something else that I'm more passionate about, which is gaming and gaming at the intersection of like culture and entertainment. Like I would always have these amazing conversations with my friend, Kyle Harvey, who works for actually the esports org T1 now. And him and I would talk about some of these cultural moments, like how impactful like the Halo franchise was and still is, and how it really was the reason that many people got Xbox to begin with, or talking about just how impactful Grand Theft Auto's radio station was in terms of introducing people to hip hop when they didn't have access to it, like a Spotify or playlist. Like that was the first time I came across Royce the 5'9", and that was a trickling effect after. And we would have these immense and really in-depth cultural conversations about gaming, but I had like nowhere to put it or to do. And so when I finally was starting to get hit up about talking about these things and talking about just some of the passions that I have within esports, I was like, wow, this actually could be a career. It took some time. I think honestly, what really solidified me having a career in this space was when CAA signed me. And that's what I was like, okay, this is now an actual career that I could pursue and continue. It's not just something where it's like, oh, it may work, it may not work. And that's when it really took off.
Yeah, when agencies are adding it, kind of, because I know pretty intimately like how they pursue opportunities for their clients, and when that when a whole industry opens up and they're like, we need clients that are going to be the people in this industry need clients of ours to fill these roles, and we're being asked now for it. When that like relationship happens, that's when it becomes, I feel like a career path that is like, now we're seeing like there's like college majors starting to have esports things associated, like you can literally do it when you're 16, decide and go to college and like look to like get into the industry, and the same way that a lot of endemic industries have been for a long time. And I know that's not necessarily something that you need to do, obviously, but it gives it a little bit of I want to use gives it credibility, right?
Yeah.
Which is super cool. You were talking about the intersection with culture in video games, and I feel like if there's anyone to ask about that, it's you. And I really, because you have interviewed some of the some of the most amazing pop culture icons that I had from when I was young. Like there's T-Pain and Snoop Dogg and like a bunch of these other athletes and things, people that you've talked to. So I guess one interesting thing I think that you could maybe help out with is I feel like over like the last 5 years that melding has become more like video games has become like Snoop Dogg 10 years ago was like not going to do a gaming adjacent charity event. Like he wasn't going to. It was going to be hip hop or it was going to be, but now something has happened in the last 5 years to where pop culture and gaming have been so closely tied. And so what do you think some of the major catalysts for that are? What do you think a major reason that, like, honestly, I'm one of those people that kind of was like, oh, I've liked video games for a long time, but now it's a viable thing. What do you think happened that made so many people who were so popular for other things start to add the gaming side of themselves to their public persona?
I think what started to happen is that the biggest change that I've noticed, because gaming has always been something that entertainment and pop culture have always been, within in some shape or form, whether it's Notorious B.I.G. with his Sega Genesis reference in his song, or the fact that we had the Resident Evil franchise. Even though, the movies aren't the greatest, it still was a successful video game adaptation back then. I think that it was always like there, but the difference between now and then is that you actually have gamers who are in executive positions now. You actually have gamers that are in positions of influence. And when you have those people who are saying, hey, I like gaming, or show that they're into gaming, or they're the ones saying, hey, let's do, a Halo series, or let's do this, or it's when you have people who understand the culture, who are in these decision-making positions, influence positions, as well as check-cutting positions, you're going to get more of an authentic experience, which is what we're seeing now. It wasn't that authentic. I'm going to tell you right now, the Super Mario Bros. Movie was horrendous. That was like one of the worst video game adaptation movies.
Wait, the first one you're saying? Like the OG from like whatever it was, the 90s, the live action one from
the one with John Leguizamo, and he's in like the elevator, and they're just that was so bad. I mean, it was like a good bad movie. We all have those, right? But I think that when that happened is when we started to see a change. I mean, it's interesting. If you look at the trajectory of hip hop and you look at the trajectory of gaming, it's literally like the same. They both came around the same time. They both were started by very subculture communities that people despise or thought were weirdos and all these different things. But yet these are two of the most impactful, influential communities now in so many shape or forms. It's either people are trying to get involved or get money or spend money on gaming, or utilize hip hop for the same thing as well. And so we are seeing that it's in a whole new realm that I think people are starting to catch up to it. Gaming has always been a lifestyle. It's just now I think that people are starting to realize it and not portraying it as being someone that's in your mom's basement. It's like everyone and anyone can play video games. And it's the hottest thing now.
Oh yeah. I think you're sorry, Trevor. I was just gonna say when you said hip hop and gaming kind of going up in the same trajectory, I immediately thought of the Mortal Kombat 10 trailer with, I think it was Wiz Khalifa, who was like on that track as Sub-Zero and Scorpion are fighting. I was like, this is the dopest trailer I've ever seen in my life. I want to play this game so badly, and they just did such a great job of putting those things together. So it just immediately came to my mind. I watched that trailer for fun. I was just like, watch it. It's like, oh yeah,
because it raises the hair on the back of your neck every time you watch it.
Oh gosh, gets me going. Yeah,
it's the scene from Two Towers for me when the Ents are going to war. That gets my nerd. That gets my nerd thing going.
Not related to.
I'll go back and watch that all the time. Yeah, not related much at all. I was just gonna say. I actually said I was talking to my wife last night, and I just kind of like sit there and I was like, man, I'm so glad that like the gaming naysayers when I was like 12 were wrong. Like that like I can come home and I'll be like, hey babe, I'm gonna go upstairs and play like New World for 4 hours. And like that's and then I treat it in an adult way. I'm like, I'm setting this time apart to go play video games, and she'll be like, okay. and all this stuff about like, hey, when you're older, you're not going to be able to play any video games, or when you're an adult, you won't play video games. I'm like,
yeah,
bad.
dude, something as simple as I remember this kind of like stigma of having my PS4 or now PS5 in the main console area of like my living room, because people might see it and be like, what is that? And like as an adult, and like I'm married, and like my wife is like, decorating the house, and I'm like, can I have my PS5 here? I'm like, of course I can. It just is weird. Like I grew up with my mom be like, put that stuff away. Like that goes away in the cabinet. I'm not going to let people know that you just played, Super Mario for 5 or 10 hours. So even just simple stuff like that, just having it on display, or people's PCs now being like a statement piece and things like that, I think kind of speaks to
like it went from like, oh, you're a PC gamer to look at my RGB. Like now you're showing it off. It flipped. It flipped in our lifetimes, and that doesn't happen a lot.
Exactly.
It's so interesting how things have changed like that. I'm super pumped because I've been playing video games pretty regularly the whole time.
Yeah. Yes.
But like I started streaming in 2016 in a major league clubhouse, and was like, you play video games like on the internet, like, and people watch them, like, yeah. And I had that conversation, and now I have, and then going into this season, I probably had 7 or 8 teammates who had Twitch channels and had streamed at some point. So I'm like,
way more.
Who was right? Idiots.
Exactly. Yeah, you rub their faces in it. Yeah. No, good.
I never did that. I just need them to know that I'm way more popular.
No, absolutely, naturally. I mean, you have your logo on your wall.
When we think of baseball players, Trevor, honestly, in the gaming space, you're like the first person we think of. Yeah. So it's interesting because I actually have like a question for you too. Like, it's interesting how when we look at traditional sports or we look at other areas, it's like the people who are very known and popular in the gaming space aren't, how they're perceived in baseball is a little bit different how they're perceived in the gaming space. I think like in the gaming space, we don't care how big you are. It's more about authenticity, which is something that you've shown. And like, what for you too, what really got you guys to stream? I feel like streaming for me is so hard to do because I'm not consistent. And also it's like sometimes you like stream by yourself and it's like it feels like you're talking to yourself. Like, how do you guys like, what made you want to do that? And like, how do you like navigate it as a career or like an adjacent career for you two?
Oh gosh. Well, for me, I did it because I was laid off from my job. And so I had a 9 to 5 and I got laid off, and Tim, my buddy, is Tim the Tap Man. He was like, well, I mean, I'm streaming. I just went full time. Maybe you go live one day and see how it goes. And I was like, okay. And then I played Hearthstone, which was big at the time. And so essentially I kind of did it because I was playing games anyway while I was looking for a new job. And Tim was encouraging me to do so. And it was like a small chance I could make it a career. It was like a little shot. And then like my first night, it just kind of blew up and I did super well. And I was like, okay, well, let's keep this going. So it kind of started off as a need, and it kept going because I had such fun with the people in chat. It became like I was the host of my own chat, and that was really fun. I really enjoyed kind of like the jokes I would have with the chat and kind of building that community. So I think that's a common answer for most streamers. It feels like is community is a huge part of it, and that's really what's fun. Like if I didn't have the same people come in every day, I think I might be less motivated to go live every day if it was like a new audience every time. So like having my regulars pop in, be like, what's going on? Spiderica, what's going on? So a Tooth.
They're both gonna be so pumped.
They're gonna be so happy. I got a little
and they are normal listeners of the pod too, so they're definitely gonna hear it.
They're very excited. So yeah, that's my reason. That's why I like doing it.
That's so interesting. Like the community part it is super interesting to me. Like yesterday, I went live for 3 hours, and I was like, I didn't even wasn't even interested in opening in a game. I'm like, I just want to reach chat this whole time.
Yeah.
And we did we're doing something. I'm trying something new this year where we're doing try to make me laugh. People are just, because one of my favorite things to do in the whole world is just save TikToks and show them to people. And so people are doing that for me. I'm like, do that for me. And then every time that I laugh, I put $25 into a pot. And then in the middle of December, what we're going to do is we are going to pick 10 Amazon wish lists that chat. We're going to do a stream of it. They're going to all send me them. We're going to pick 10 people, and then we're going to pick something off their Amazon wish list and send it to them. And we did that kind of last year, but it was just kind of like I picked 5 and I just, paid for the stuff. But now we actually have like a goal where all this money's coming back to the community. So the more we get, the more, the higher the
funnier
more
the
expensive
TikTok.
the item can be for the 10 people, which would be cool. Cause I mean, every time I go in there and there's PS5, not getting you that. Where's the stream deck? Like that's usually what I'm doing. So I thought that would be interesting. And we did that, but I had no intention. Like I didn't want to play a game at all. I just wanted to be able to read chat. So what has actually bothered me, the streams that I don't enjoy as much is when I realize that I haven't read chat very much. And then it makes you realize that like, that's why I'm here. And I think that, and this could just be me guessing. And there, maybe when you get so big that your chat moves so fast that it's hard to even like, every time you look over, it overwhelms you so much that you have trouble picking out things and talking to them and replying. And I think that then now you have the game that needs to capture your attention really hardcore. So if the game isn't capturing your attention and you can't read your chat very well, like you start to get in this rut where you're like, neither one of these things are doing it for me because it's hard. That was hard, like and this is hard. So I think that. So I don't know if you guys have noticed a lot of big streamers. A lot of the OGs have been around a long time. They mention gaming ruts a lot more than others. For me, I just noticed it a lot. They're like, man, there's a gaming rut. Like I'm not, and I bet you, because the community is such a fun part of the game, and that like anyone who's streamed for a long time has to have something they like that part. That it's hard. It becomes harder to like connect with people the way that was fun before because there's so many. That's such an interesting thing for me to think about because there's so many guys now that were, when I started in 16, they were big, right? And then they got massive, like massive to the where there is no even reading subs. Like you have too many subs.
Yeah, there's not even like notification anymore. Crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting you guys mentioned that because I think it's first of all, I have so much respect for streamers. Like it is a skill set in itself, the same way that broadcasting is, and it's very unique in itself. And then I think like one of the things for me when it comes to streaming is I actually like what you mentioned, the community part. I actually enjoy talking to my viewers than sometimes just playing the game. And I've been I've been starting to kind of like separate where it's like when I'm streaming, that's like I'm engaging with the viewers more so. Like if I die a few times in a game, I'm like, I don't care. Like I'm here because this is a way for me to like better gauge like who my supporters are, what do they like? And I even take feedback. I'm like, what would you like to see differently? Right. And I think that it does create some kind of intimate atmosphere. But I do understand like when there's a ton of people, because even though I don't have a ton of people following me for streaming, but when I do like some of those bigger broadcasts and you just see all the comments, it's just like, whoa, this is a lot. Like I can't even look at the chat when I'm broadcasting because it's just too much.
Exactly. Yeah, it's overwhelming and there's like a disconnect. And man, it's true. Like what Trevor was saying too, like if the game isn't going well and you can't connect with the chat, you're just like in this weird.
What am I doing?
Why am I alive right now? Like why?
I can just do this offline.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that thought. I hate having that thought.
Yes, it's very true. Man, that's I've never like identified it like that before, but that's really good. And you're right. Yeah, if you can't connect with the chat or if it's going a million miles an hour, typically don't have that problem. But if it is, still it can be hard to connect, which I think is the point that you're trying to make.
Connecting with people is one of the best parts, and I think that's true for most streamers. And a lot of people are just insane. They're just insanely good. They could sit there and they could be silent the whole time. There's no cam.
They're in it for the game.
They're in it for the game, and those people exist, but they are the minority. I think that if that's not a skill set that you have, being a top player, playing like that is very tough to do because that's just not what people are there for.
Exactly.
So we talk about this a lot on the show, and I think that this is something that we get into, constantly talking about like how this whole thing works. But it's super interesting to think about how important community is and how you engage with it. And if you're gonna do it, like you got to focus on those things and be creative there. Like be creative in a community way behind the scenes, because people that we know that do that stuff, like Jen with her Discord, Genticles, started streaming.
Love her, by the way.
She's hilarious. Started streaming like a year ago, but she had such a good community before she started streaming that like that has translated into a ton of success while she's streaming. And there's always like 15-20 people using her Discord, always, at all times. She created that situation before her. And that's something that like I'm chasing now. I'm like, people use my thing for stuff like engage with me, right? And it's that's like one of the things that isn't talked about a lot that translates into streaming success is having that community base that when you're not live.
Exactly.
It's super interesting. But I would love to really quickly left turn. And you said you have been gaming since Sega Genesis. So I want to know, I got to get some, everyone plays different stuff. They have their different like genres that they enjoy. So what is your favorite game ever? Or what are your favorite group of games? Like, what are some of your favorite games?
Oh man. Okay. Ooh, this is a good question. I always get stumped on this because I literally, since Sega Genesis, I think I pretty much own every single console.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Well, my
Dreamcast?
family. Well, so the unique thing about my upbringing was like my family supported gaming. My stepdad actually helped to port a game for the Commodore 64. And my parents are techies. So like it was never an issue. Like gaming was never an issue. I think we even had like the arcade cabinet for Joust. So we very much are like a gaming family. Like I know a lot of people sometimes have stories like my parents didn't accept my game. Me, it was the complete opposite. My family was like, as long as you get A's and you get a scholarship, a soccer scholarship, we don't care. You can play as many hours as you want. And so I think one of my favorite games of all time is Metal Gear Solid. I love that game. It completely helped to change the modern day stealth video game genre. Let's see what else. Oh my gosh, there's so many really good ones.
It can be hard to name all of them at once. Yeah,
it really is. I mean, you could even have like, Resident Evil 4. What else? Oh my gosh, there's so many. Jet Set Radio, love that game. Very culturally defining video game. Yeah.
Jet Set Radio. I completely forgot about that.
Oh my gosh. Google it.
Yeah, that game is honestly like if we're talking about some of the most culturally impactful video games, that is one of them for sure, 100%. It literally brought the world of New York City. So a lot of people don't know, Jet Set Radio had the graffiti in the game actually came from real graffiti artists, and actually one of them is a notable one from New York City who was a co-founder of one of the biggest graffiti collectives in New York City history. I think he started in like the 70s or 80s.
Whoa.
And so that game brought a lot of like New York and inner city culture, whether through the graffiti itself or just the fact that they integrated things like hip hop and funk and tech all into one game. And they did it in the most subtle and entertaining way. It wasn't like, hey guys, we're going to immerse you in this new culture. Like it was the way that they did it was amazing. I'm hoping we can get a new one. I don't think we are, but I really hope we get a new one. But that's one of my favorite games. I mean, it's hard. Like I have favorite games for different reasons. I don't know if that's like, okay, like if I tell you guys, okay, name me your top 3 video games of all time right now, would you be able to answer it like in 5 seconds?
And generally,
I think so.
Yeah. The top one would be very easy.
Oh yeah, the top one is very, very easy.
But what's your top one then?
World of Warcraft.
For
me. Yeah.
100%.
Easy. Yeah.
I would play it every moment of
I
every
think
day still.
because I mean, like most things, it's attached to like a defining moment in your life or like a very like a transitional moment or something like that. So you put more you care more about it because of what it meant through that time. And so that's why I love World of Warcraft so much. I mean, I love the game as well. I think the game is a ton of fun, and obviously millions of people liked it too. But like, yeah, you have your classics. Like, okay, Jet Set Radio reminds me of the fact that I loved Street Fighter Alpha 2. Like, very random game that was on Super Nintendo.
Tricky.
But
and
it just
Marvel vs.
reminds
Capcom
me.
too.
Stop.
But then I got to talk about baseball games like I had SSX Tricky at the same time that I had MVP Baseball 2005 on regular Xbox. So they were together, and I was like, I don't want to play baseball today, so let's play snowboarding,
virtual
snowboarding. So and the same thing I'm doing the streamer series on MLB The Show. What I did an MVP Baseball franchise, and I make all my friends. I would change everyone in the men because we had like a Sandlot baseball team when we were like 12, and we go like practice. We never played anybody. We just practiced. We didn't even have enough guys for a team, but which is what they do in the Sandlot. And then so I like mimic that. I'm like, okay, what type of players are my friends? So I create their batting stances, their names, and their stats. And then I'm like, wait, what are all these streamers? So like I'm playing the show right now how I loved playing baseball games before. Everyone else plays competitively in the show now, and I'm just like, no, I want to play in this way. This is the way that I play games. Once I discovered that I could do it that way, it just brought me back. Like I just went back into 15-year-old me, and I was like, this is like, so I think about it when I wake up in the morning. I'm like, what else could I do? Like that's the way. It's so everyone has that experience.
Yeah. Right? So Aaron, what's your most then influential game? What do you think the game that like shaped you the most, or like was important to you during a time? Maybe not like the best game you've ever played, but one that like maybe sticks out.
So there's 2 games I think have really influenced me. And I'm not just saying this because of the 20th anniversary of Xbox, but I would say definitely Halo 2 and Halo 3. Halo 2 and Halo 3 for 2 different reasons. One, Halo 2 obviously had an amazing campaign. And that was a game that it was one of the games that I really bonded with my older brother with. There were few games and franchises where we really bonded. And it was, Halo was one. Resident Evil was one. I was always the scared little sister. I used to watch him play that. But Halo 3 for me was so impactful because it was during a time where I felt a little like I was a teen, and I don't know, was it 15? I think I was maybe 15, 16. And it was during a time where like I felt lost because I was going through so many different changes. Like I was, I was playing soccer very competitively. And so I wasn't able to hang out with a lot of my friends. And then there was this, there's the politics of sports that a lot of people don't know about, and dealing with that and dealing with even my own teammates not even liking me because I was a top player and like all these different things. And I felt like I had like, it was weird. I didn't really have a group of friends that I felt really connected to. And during that time, that was when Xbox Live was really going off because of the multiplayer option. And that's when I found my gaming tribe. Like I found a group of people online. It was kind of like, it felt like, and everyone has their game that has done that for them. But Halo has really done that for me, where I found a group of people. We didn't care what gender or age or ethnicity or anything. It was just like every time we logged in at the same time every single day to play. And this gaming tribe was great because then eventually like moved over into Gears of War and other games as well. And I remember like it was around the time too when we all got access to Facebook. And it wasn't just for colleges. And then we started seeing each other like, oh, wait, that's what you looked like? Oh, okay, cool. But that really was a time where I think I probably was struggling the most with like anxiety and depression. And that game plus Xbox Live really like kept me afloat and really gave me a very supportive group of individuals that I could count on. Even if it wasn't just to talk about what was going on in our lives, we all were bonding over the fact that like, we all struggle in some shape or form, but we're going to all come together because we love this game. We love competing and we love having fun. And we also love trash talking too. So yeah, I would say that game, those 2 games for 2 different reasons are why, the Halo franchise has impacted my life tremendously.
Yeah, that is exactly it. That's exactly it for me for World of Warcraft. And that was when I realized on Ventrilo, on that god awful VoIP service, that it didn't matter what age you were, your gender, and this, like, it literally didn't matter at all. It was just like you played a mage, and like we need a mage, so like I don't really care what else about you.
Everything making fun of you was based on your character, not you.
Exactly, not your real person. Yeah, if you were like a short troll, it was like, or like a dwarf, that's what we made fun of you for. It wasn't anything else. It was like lore based making fun of, like, your people are turned to stone. It was like ridiculous japs, but that's true. I think that is the reason that WoW is so influential to me. It's a great game, but it meant a lot during a very special time. I think that's even more like the favorite game thing is cool. I think what the most influential game is even more interesting. Just has more impact to me.
Yeah. No, I never thought about it that way, but yeah, I agree. Like same thing. Vent. We had I would a couple years after I left that guild that I was in, I would pop in and see what they were doing. They were always playing CS:GO. Our guild leader had stopped playing WoW and was just like with 3 other guys that were in the guild, and they were playing CS:GO. And I had never played CS:GO at that time. And just like, hey guys, what's up? And they knew I played baseball. I was in the minor leagues at the time, so
oh cool.
it was always interesting. I always wonder like if they've ever popped in the stream or anything and just not said anything, or if anyone ever came in the guild. I've always wondered because I was 12 years ago. So
yeah,
it's interesting. But you just mentioned something really quickly. I want to touch on this because I've been watching Arcane on Netflix. And
I was just going to talk about that. Oh my god!
So we're talking about lore, gaming lore, and I'm a huge fantasy nerd. I'm reading a book called Cradle right now. That it's basically it's an anime. It's anime. It's what anime would be. I've never read a book that was probably an anime, if that makes sense. Like if you're imagining in your head, I'm like, wait, I'm imagining
it's not anime, but it has anime.
It's not, but if it were made into an animated series, it's anime, and everything's described, like the fighting and everything, and like they jumped 30 feet in the air.
Is there a lot of like
this is anime?
Is there a lot of visualization of like or like like the weird
I think
sounds?
I think that's only the visual medium. Yeah, that's not
I didn't know
that's not the written word, but it's really incredible. The whole book is based on leveling up. Like the whole thing is just like there's levels of power, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. You're like, oh my god, there's something above that. Anyway, it'll make a great game someday. Someone's gonna take it. I love fantasy is what I'm trying to say, and so like I get into the lore. Paul, and I know Paul likes lore too. We've talked about this quite a bit. And so when Arcane came out, I was always thinking. So anyone who doesn't know, without no spoilers either, Arcane is the League of Legends based lore, and as far as I know, it's not. The lore actually isn't designed. It's not like, oh, this is how we got in the arena and how we fought. Like it's not. That's not in the lore. That's just the way the game is played. Like the game's not referenced. It's just its own story. It's their stories. Not the, and then like in Apex Legends, right? You watch their little shorts and stuff. It always ends with them being in the arena, right? Like you kind of get an idea, like there's something in the story that makes them go to the arena and fight each other. Like in League, that's not. That's in this show anyway. It isn't. But
3 episodes in or whatever.
It's incredible. So lore wise, is there in the all gaming space forever? Do you have a favorite story?
Oh, do I have a favorite
or a
story?
most influential story?
Okay, Trevor.
Oh my gosh, this is another hard question too. So the reason why this is a hard question for me because I've always been I was a massive like kind of like you like fantasy book. I read books all the time. Like for me to learn the backstory of different characters and to learn through the cutscenes was always something that was like influential to me. Like I'm actually someone that I go to YouTube and I watch cutscenes. Like I'll watch cutscenes from like previous games, like or if a new iteration of a franchise is coming out, I'll watch the previous cutscenes and watch the previous ones to like refresh myself to prepare for potentially what could be in the next one. Favorite lore. I honestly,
or maybe a game that like represented the lore really well. Meaning like had really good cutscenes or like made you feel like you're like in the story. You're like, oh yeah. Like WoW's trailers for their expansions are like, bruh. They're legendary, right? Like that got me excited in a different way. Even if I wasn't reading the books. But is there any trailers even that you were like, dude?
I would say in terms of franchises, Final Fantasy. For me, I really enjoyed Final Fantasy and I liked how Final Fantasy, especially back then, because I didn't play WoW. I've actually never played WoW. I didn't grow up with a PC. I honestly didn't start PC gaming until I was like 27.
Oh, dang.
And I'm 29 now. Yeah, it's been a long time. So Final Fantasy definitely for me because I think that the way that it was such a unique way of storytelling with fantasy, and then you were able to gravitate towards the characters, and actually like it has characters that are probably some of the most recognizable ones in the gaming world. Like you could, if you see Cloud's sword, you know it's Cloud like instantly. The same way that if you see Link or see Link's sword, you know it's Link. And so Final Fantasy for me was one of those fantasy franchises that like I really immersed myself in, and I actually really enjoyed the different cutscenes. But I also liked how in some of the different titles that they had like these side games and side quests where they made up a whole sports game and then you had to play in it, even though the mechanics were like horrible. That for me was like I really, really enjoyed it. And the reason why like I got really into Final Fantasy is because it gave me, from a video game standpoint, it kind of gave me the same feeling as if like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. Like, I felt like it was just a very unique storyline where I felt connected to the characters, whether I disliked them or liked them. And I like the way that they were able to carry over some of the characters to the other titles, and how and the cutscenes I really, really enjoyed. And so in terms of a franchise and in terms of the characters and lore, like back when I was younger, that was the one I probably think I tied more into. And then on less of the fantasy side of things, I think from like more of an action pack, that's why I loved Metal Gear. The franchise itself is because you really connected with Snake. And you learned a lot about Snake and the villains that were tied to it. I think that, like, to be honest, like, I honestly I think sometimes I play certain games just for the just for the story and cutscenes than I do for the action. Like, I've always been like that. If it's not like, of course, for FPSs, to be honest, for most FPSs except for like Halo, I didn't really care about the cutscenes.
Yeah.
But it was like the other genres for me was where like I really immersed myself in those cutscenes.
I feel that way exactly right now with Guardians of the Galaxy, where I do enjoy the gameplay. It's not bad by any means. It is fun, but I'm really there for the story. Like, tell me the story, show me all the cutscenes. I think about when I play it, like, I could just watch this on YouTube. Like, this would be a thing I would watch a playthrough of on YouTube just to like get the story. But also, sidebar on Final Fantasy, I'm not super adept at it. Isn't it kind of like a retelling of a similar story, just multiple times? Or like, it's not all the same universe, is it? Is it like interconnected?
It's so expansive now.
It's very expansive now.
with any certainty, I'm gonna be honest, because there's things that are like, it's just like old timey and way off in the fantasy route, and then it's like modern, like we're driving in cars and stuff, and I'm like, I
remember seeing a car.
Like, so maybe this is, I bet you there's YouTube series that break this down. There's so many. I mean, dude, what everyone's playing Final Fantasy 14. So like, how many, different ideas have they had over the year? 14. It's
true.
It's insane. And I'm gonna be honest, it was like Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft for me, because it was just time. Like, who has the time? There's so much of both.
You kind of had to choose. Yeah.
You kind of had to choose a little bit. And that's why, but at the end of the day, after watching Arcane, I just want Riot to make an MMO and just get rid of that trash lane running down games.
Yeah.
Where everyone yells at each other
super successful game. Yeah.
And tells everyone how terrible everyone else is, and just make an MMO, because I want to be in Piltover and just, I don't know, make a sniper like Caitlyn.
Well, I mean, hey, they're in the process.
I know they've been working on this for like, they keep mentioning it.
Yeah, they're in the
been like, well,
I thought we just got a leak from Erin. I was like, what?
No. It's not a leak. I actually interviewed, I did a panel with, it was like the women leading the charge at Riot. So we had one who helps to lead League, one who led Arcane and still leads Arcane. Her name is Shauna. And then the other one was it was a newly hire for the MMO. So it's known that they're working on the MMO and also the fighting game too, which I'm actually interested in. But the reason why I really liked Arcane, you don't need to know anything about any of the champions. Like, you don't need to know anything.
Yeah.
And you're still gonna enjoy it.
If you know a little bit, it makes it really good. Like,
it makes it, yes.
Yeah,
like, I hear names from like TFT.
She became like that.
Exactly. Yes.
And
it's
Vi's so badass. And
I know. And then the Caitlyn and Vi ship, everyone's like, oh my gosh, is this happening finally?
And Caitlyn's exactly the way I thought she'd be. And Jace is just clueless. Oh God, it's great. It's so fun. It is great. And there's enough name drops and there's enough bad guys. And then not only that, how they introduced like the mechanics from the game, like how they literally invented like power sources in the game. And you're like, what is Hextech, for example, like explains where that comes from, and that was a whole season in TFT. So like, if you play the games, it's an amazing experience. But if you don't, Kate and I were watching it last night. She's like, "This is incredible! Like the art, the music, and the voiceovers are incredible." But what she noticed more than anything, and I didn't know this is the first time because I'm watching it the second time now, was how well the animation represents like their emotion. on their faces, and that's not done in animation very well usually. But like how like you're like, oh my god, you can tell that how distraught or traumatic that was. Like it comes across really clearly, and I didn't notice that the first time. Like I was having those feelings, I didn't know where they were coming from. Like I'm having a live action response, like actual human beings are reacting and acting, but this is animated, and I've never had. It's very like Pixar. I'm getting Pixar heartstring pulled, and that's next level. That's especially when it's video game lore.
Bro, I welled up a couple times. I'm like, this is a cartoon. Like,
Jesus, these people are going through a lot. Anyway, watch it. We're gonna really quickly get into spoilers if we go any further. But it's incredible. It's on Netflix. You got to watch it.
Yes,
it's really, really good.
Before we wrap up here, I want to ask one final question. Maybe who just sticks in your mind the most? Because I know favorite is difficult, but who is like your favorite or most like sticks out in your mind interview that you've ever done, like with the person, whoever it is?
Oh, I can answer this very quickly. Snoop Dogg.
Was there?
Snoop Dogg. I've told this story before, and I don't even know how I was able to do it. So I interviewed Snoop Dogg at his compound because he had his tournament. And then also it was around I don't know if it was the anniversary of John Singleton's passing, or it was around the time of Fear and Respect's anniversary. But so I went and was talking to him about, the late great John Singleton. And he was just saying how like, if they were able to go through with Fear and Respect, and it would have been he said that it could have rivaled Grand Theft Auto. And it was just really a unique perspective to learn like why that game never came about and like the issues behind it and stuff like that. And, but during that whole time, as many people know, Snoop Dogg likes his weed, and him and his friends hotboxed a 2-story room, and I was in that room all day, and I had one, and so I did like a 20-minute interview with him, and I was just like, okay, that's it. And then he found me, and he was like, his own Snoop Dogg, he was like, baby girl, like, do you still want to do another interview? I was like, I don't want to take up too much time. He was like, no, we could still do another interview. But by that time at the end, myself, the producer, and the camera guy, we all got secondhand smoke. We were high. And so he was like, are you ready to do it? So I looked at our producer. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. He was like, just try. We'll figure it out in editing. And like, I actually still have a photo of it. Like, you could see in my eyes, I was high as heck. And I just told the producer, as long as I don't have to look in the camera, just don't let me look in the camera. He's like, yeah, just look for a second and then turn. So the entire time in the interview, I'm literally just like this talking to him, because I was like, if you look in my eyes, I look so high. But it was such a fun interview, because you could tell that Snoop's a gamer, and it was like the intersection of like gaming, entertainment, and culture in so many different shapes and forms. And and then that also was a time where I tested my broadcasting skills. I'm like, listen, if you inhale the stuff that Snoop Dogg smokes, Jesus, like I was like, I don't even, after the interview, I was like, did I form any senses? Like, it was that bad. But it ended up being a really good interview. But like, everyone could tell, they're like, dang, everyone's really high right now.
If Erin can crush an interview with Snoop Dogg high as a kite, she's the best interviewer there in the industry. I mean, she's the best. There's no one. She's high off record. I just imagine the camera guy like dropping the camera and like picking it back up.
Like, it's just fade. It's like going down.
It's in and out of focus constantly. He just can't get the depth of field right.
That's so funny. I feel like Snoop's number one thing. He's like, all right, we're doing an event. He walks in. He's like, all right, how do we fill this up with smoke? Like, it's his first thing he figures out. First,
close all the windows.
Number one prerequisite. I need to do that. I got to establish that first, and then we can do whatever you need to do after that.
Exactly.
That is on the rider. It's the top thing.
Yeah, and he brought all his friends. He brought all his friends, and he even brought artists from Wiz Khalifa's label, and they all are heavy smokers. So it was just, it was a lot. I had to walk outside. I was like, I need a breath of fresh air.
I'm so cool, hungry, and I need to breathe. I need to eat.
I need to get my life together. And then I walk out.
Snoop too. Like, it's the Snoop Dogg. Like, it's Snoop Dogg, bro.
And his compound is crazy, because he has obviously all of his like platinum and gold records and stuff, and then he has a mural that it's like a Lakers mural and has Kobe on it, and then he has his own like gaming room, so he has like traditional arcade games, but then he also has like video game consoles, and it was just like, it was an experience in itself. And I'm just walking around super high like, this is so cool.
So he's about as cool as we thought he was, basically.
Oh yeah, Snoop is very like how cool you think he is? He's exactly that cool.
He's exactly
like,
that
hands
cool.
down. Hands down.
That's hilarious. That is awesome. Well, Erin, thank you so much for joining us. We will not take any more of your time. We could do this all day, obviously, but you know, life happens and we got stuff to do. So, but before we take off, what do you have going on? Do you have any events going on? Anything that we should keep our eye out for? Or anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard because I'm NDA'd out the wazoo. But
oh dang,
there is a show. There is a show I'm in that's dropping in December. You're gonna see me. You're gonna see me in some gaming content on some notable platforms. I'm actually, I mean, I don't know how much I could talk about this, but I'll drop it. I'm going to Toronto to film a pilot show for one of the streaming platforms, which I'm really excited about. And then aside from that, I do, that's all I can say.
Okay.
Before I get in trouble with the NDA, but I want to give everyone a little something. Then, I just have more stuff going on with XED and me hosting. Yeah, it's just
you stream when you can, right?
Huh?
Stream on your own channel when you can, right?
Which is like never. I'm trying. I'm trying. It's hard too because I'm like, I don't know what I want to play today. I don't know what I want to talk about today.
Yeah,
it's a whole thing, and you got lots of stuff going on anyways. It should just be extra. It should just be a side
fun.
thing anyway.
It's a bonus.
It's
fun.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a bonus whenever I can.
To think about it like that more. Like if I'm recording a YouTube video, that takes some of the time from the stream. Like it doesn't need to be that and the 6-hour stream. Like I can be a 2-hour stream now and 4 hours for the video. Like you don't need it to be in addition, right? So I think about it the same way. And we can find you, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, Erin A Simon on all social medias, and then your YouTube channel is Erin Ashley Simon.
Correct.
Go check her out on all of those things, please. She's amazing, and evidently she's gonna be in something that you watch soon. Exactly. That seems pretty
Maybe
apparent.
She'll be high when she's in it. We don't know.
We don't know.
Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe Scavenger
Hunt will be there.
We'll do a Twitter poll and guess if she was or wasn't. It's
exactly. Every interview you do from now on, was Erin high in the interview? It's gonna be great.
And you look around, no Snoop, no, not high.
I mean, certain other rappers, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, who knows?
Some of them can mildly like light up a room for sure.
Exactly.
Legendary. Well, that concludes our show for the week. This has been the May Contain Action podcast. You can listen to all the full episodes on Spotify, Apple, and Google Pods, as well as watch the highlights on YouTube. And the full episodes are coming back too. So if that is where you want to watch and listen, please do so there. We are working really hard to do a lot of kind of side content around that as well. So stay tuned for that, and we will see you next week on the May Contain Action podcast. Thanks, guys.